Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we got ourselves a very interesting one here, a reaction to a new video that came out on the CGC YouTube channel. Apparently, this is a video that explains the differences between 9.8's, 9.9's, and 10's. And I had a few people send this to me and said, you have to watch this. But of course, before I get into it, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Helps support the channel. But let's get into this video here today. Now, this video right here is called CGC Insider Publisher Defects, and it already has 1,200 views, which is quite a lot for their YouTube channel. I think there's probably some spicy reactions down in the comments that we'll probably get into later on in the video. Of course, we'll have to go to Commentville, later on. But I'm gonna watch this video here. We're gonna do a little bit of a reaction. I'll probably pause it and do some commentary as we go when it's appropriate. Let us get into it here together, guys.
9.8, 9.9, and the ever elusive 10.0. Today, we're going to talk about manufacturing defects. Now, one would assume that because books come directly from the printer or the manufacturer, that the books are going to be perfect. That's not necessarily always the case. So today, we're going to discuss the differences between a 9.8, a 9.9, and a 10.0, and pull back that curtain and show you CGC's grading process.
Now, I don't know Sean Caffrey. Maybe I can get him on a Swagglecast episode. It'd be probably great to talk to him, but I think he recently was promoted to vice president. CGC kind of had a press release about that. And he might be one of the new kind of like figureheads of CGC Comics, which I think is very, very interesting. Although I think that he mostly, stays within the modern side of CGC Comics. Although at this point, you have to wonder if the modern side is actually the bigger side than, the vintage department for them. But a little bit of added context right there.
Now, there are times where we get bulk submissions sent to CGC, either directly from the publisher or the printer themselves. You see they come in these handy outer boxes, and inside here is another inner shipping box. And if I open this up, this particular case has about 160 raw copies, all pre-packed, directly case fresh from the printer.
So right there is something that I've discussed this with people before. The fact that it is coming off the press straight into their building does kind of beg the question, like, why are we not getting more 9.9's and 10's? And I've always speculated here on the channel that this is going to happen. This is an inevitability that they're moving this way to give modern books more 9.9's and 10's. For better or for worse. I can already tell what you guys are going to say in the comments, with this whole thing. But even videos like this, I feel like is sort of laying the foundation to that oh so controversial 9.9 pre-screen that certainly would one day be on the horizon. At least that's what we think. But very interesting that is actually confirmed, that they do get direct submissions. I mean, you can see right there from the packaging, like it's literally in a plastic wrap, like straight off the printer, which I gotta say is actually pretty nice packaging, because that's not how my comic books came.
Now that we have the books safely removed from the inside packaging, I'm prepping them by putting them into piles. You'll notice a backboard underneath here so they can safely be moved across the table. And one of the first things that I'm going to be looking for is, with them all lined up in the same direction, I'm going to be looking at the spine corners. Looking for that color breaking spot. As you can see, as you move your eye up and down along all the corners here, you can see the ones that do break color with the white showing versus the ones that do not and have the solid, sharp corner of a spine edge that we're looking for books that might grade out higher above a 9.8.
So that's interesting. Already, corners, by the way in which he's narrowing this down, are going to be the most important thing in the comic book. Like, that is literally the doorman. That's the gatekeeper to you being a 9.9 and a 10. Like, because of the fact that the comics are to arrive to them stacked up like that in order to streamline his own process of grading. He's just going to look at the corners right off the bat. If you don't meet that corner test, you're already getting put into the not potential 9.9, 10.0 pile.
What I've done here is a preliminary stacking process where I've gone through and I've picked the ones that don't have color breaking marks on the top and bottom spines. And then this pile right here would be that one pile. And then these piles over here would be the ones that show a little bit of white, and those would knock it out of the 9.9, 10.0 range, but not necessarily the 9.8 range. So once I have these narrowed down, I will save the higher grade ones for after, once we establish manufacturing defects and any other consistencies as far as defects that go along with all the books on this particular print run. As I'm going through these stacks, what I'm looking for is sharp corners, and a tight spine. Now in this particular book, all of these books are made beautifully. They're on a nice heavy cardstock cover and they hold up really well in shipping. So what I'm looking at here is a straight spine, 0 defects on it. And then you look at the corners here, the corners up here by the Boom logo, and then the bottom, very nice and sharp. So my eye is going around all 4 corners. No surface wear whatsoever. The only spot that I can see is that tiny little spine right there. We have a little bit of white showing, but not necessarily a book that cannot still achieve a 9.9. Even though these cases come directly from the print.
Not still a book that couldn't achieve a 9.9, guys. Very interesting. A little white corner right there can still get a 9.9. I think that this is the big discussion. This is the maybe it's, you want to call it the misnomer or something, right? Because, you know, shout out to 9.9 Newsstand. We've had conversations about what 9.9s are on the channel in the wake of the 9.9 pre-screen, and a corner like that, as 9.9 Manu put it, like no collector he knows would ever buy a 9.9 book that had a corner like that and be happy about it. But those printing issues are going to exist. So in a way, this is kind of an admission that a 9.9 can still have like you almost want to call it like a manufacturing error of like a little white corner like that. You know, and then I guess it really kind of makes sense on the 10.0 scale, where a 10.0 is literally a perfect book. A 9.9 maybe in theory would have, you know, a little bit of a manufacturing error, like a white corner like that. And then a 9.8, you know, can have a fat ass spine tick on it, you know, for an ASM1 and sell for over $1 million. So there you go. That's the scale.
There is a possibility that they can be damaged in the cases they come in. So in this particular book, as I'm looking for those sharp corners, if you notice on the bottom spine there, you can see a small impact crunch right down there by Black Ranger's foot. Now, if this particular book was going through a 9.8 pre-screen, that would be considered a handling defect that would take it out of the 9.8 and make it a reject. It would still be attainable in the 9.6 range, but unfortunately, this particular book in a 9.8 pre-screen would be a reject. And as you can see, the impact crunch carries through the book and goes through to the back cover as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I noticed too, as we were going through, I'll put this one over here in the separate pile, that one of the other books in the stack showed a little bit of white on the top spine here. Looks like it bumped around in the box on the top edge. So we got the top spine here and then the top right edge. You can see a little bit of white showing through. This is pretty minimal, something that would still be attainable in a 9.8 range. Depending on the rest of the book, we'll flip it over and see if those impact crunches do affect on the back cover as well. And as you can see, this top corner goes through the entire book. So this would be going into the reject pile as well with the other one. This would take it out of the 9.8 range and put it in a 9.6.
Okay, I'm glad that he said that would make it a 9.6 and not still a 9.8. Because I've definitely seen some books like that. That feels right to me as a 9.6. And this is the other thing too. I've had people, you know, talk about how like, oh, there's no way that should be a 9.6. Look at that corner, you know. But I think that people can often be harsher graders than what CGC even is. And their expectations is that CGC should be even harder. But then there's a whole other side of the community that feels CGC is way too hard. You know, how many times a week do you have people going like, how could CGC have given me an 8.0? This book is perfect, you know, and maybe it had little things like this on it that you can't really see, you know, once it goes inside the case. Now, I know you guys are thinking that I'm being a CGC apologist, but these are the things we have to understand. You have to kind of know how to grade, or at least know how CGC grades.
All right, so now I have these piles separated out by grade as of now, based on the corners and the top and bottom spine showing white and impact bends anywhere on the corners. This pile right here I have in front of me, along with these two piles to my right, are books that are still within a 9.8 contention versus this side over here on my left, which are the really nice looking books that have sharp corners, no color breaks. These are books that we're gonna look at a little bit closer once we go through these. So now I'm going to focus on the back covers and look across the surface and roll my eye across the light and look at the surface for any type of scuffs, indents, bends, creases. And when you're looking at the same book, it is a little easier. You can go a lot faster because you're looking at the same thing over and over and over again. So it does become a little repetitious, but it makes it easier. And my eye just goes in a circle. and go around the book.
You know what's funny to me about this is I love that there's a section of the comic community that thinks that CGC, when they grade books, like use white gloves and like handle this stuff super, super carefully and all that. But like, you just see him, he's just kind of flipping past them. I mean, maybe he wouldn't be as, fast if he was handling, I don't know, an Action Comics #1. But, in the modern grading market, I mean, he's got to get through this stuff really, really quick. And then it kind of begs the question, like, is another CGC grader going to look over his grades? Like, he's saying these are 9.8's. Is someone else going to go through that pile and do the same thing? Because what CGC says is that they have 2 people look at your book. Although now that I'm thinking about it for myself, what is the actual language? Is it 2 people will inspect the book? Maybe that doesn't necessarily mean 2 people are going to grade the book. Maybe that means 2 people are going to look at it. And certainly someone in the shipping department is going to look at it. That's very interesting. What do you guys think about that?
As you can tell by these piles, these are all 9.8's. This was a pretty successful pre-screen so far. As I was going through the 9.8's, the rejects that I pulled, you notice that some of them have these impact crunches. Some of these defects are only visible depending on how you hold the book and at what angle you're looking at it. So these crunches right here that I rejected as we were looking in the front are things that are really only visible when you're looking straight on the book. If it was off to the side, yeah, there's a little bit of white showing, but not necessarily the crunch itself will be visible. So that's why it's important for me when I look at these books to break them down step by step and look at different areas as I go. Once I get all the 9.8's, what I like to do is I like to safely stack these, and I do that by staggering them in counts of 10, front to back. So as you notice, this pile is a lot cleaner and a lot safer than the one to its side, so they don't tip over and fall. So I stagger them 10 by 10, which makes it easier at the end of the day too for me to count how many, as I can just count based on the side showing.
I agree with that method. I think that is a good tip. Also for shipping, if you guys ever send comic books, in a Gemini mailer, you put a few in, like put them front to back. I think that that's the way to go. Now, it is also interesting, the corner crunch thing. That's something that you definitely should look out for. I know, like, if I ever go to an LCS and I'm buying a new comic book and I buy something off the rack, the corner crunch is something I always look for. So, hot tip for you guys out there. Don't just pull the first one, that's on the pile at your LCS. Like, take a look at those corners, because there's a lot of corner crunch going on. You don't want to get a 9.6.
So now that I have the 9.8 separated, what I'm going to do is go back to that previous pile, the one that I pulled that had the nicer looking spines that had very little to no white showing at all. What we're going to do about these is we're going to go over these a little more of a fine-tooth comb than we did the other ones, because we know that these could possibly be higher contenders. So we need to look and make sure and scrutinize these books and make sure every single corner is sharp, there's no surface discrepancies, there's no nothing. And as I go through these, I will do the same thing I did before by separating a pile based on what I see.
So that's something that I think is interesting and was one of the things that I heard people complaining about when Matt originally announced that they might be doing a 9.9 pre-screen. This idea that he's going to have to spend more time looking at these books to make sure that they're 9.9's or 10's. And that was kind of an issue that people had, because presumably as a CGC grader, you would need to be looking at these books very, very closely anyways to see if they are 9.9's and 10's. And one of the things that Matt said is, maybe in the 9.9 pre-screen, you'd have to charge a little bit of a premium because it's going to take longer for graders to spend time looking at books that could be 9.9's and 10's. And that kind of felt like, well, weren't you doing that anyways? But, as we're kind of seeing in this process, I think a lot of this just has to do with the just amount of volume that CGC is dealing with. Whether this is right or wrong, whether you guys think, they should be spending more time or not. I mean, you saw it right there. Like that's how quickly he looked through the books to determine if they were actually 9.8's. It literally, he's got, I don't know how many books that is, but like 100, 200 copies of the same book from the publisher. He's got to quickly turn around a 9.8 pre-screen. He's just literally looking at the pile, taking out the ones that have white showing on the corners, and then flipping through back and forth. He didn't even open the book, actually. He didn't even count the pages. Let's assume he counted the pages, guys. Do you think he counted the pages? Oh my God. I think they probably edited that out of the video, right? Like, clearly he had a part where he counted the pages and made sure that everything was good on the interior. You would think.
So as I was going through this stack and using the light to my advantage, what I'm looking for are divots or shadows caused by bends, creases, indents, crunches. Now I'll show you these three right here I took out of that pile. As I was going through them, I noticed some defects here on the back cover. On these books, you can see the slight little dark shadows, these two on the bottom, particularly on the spine. These are slight little impacts, which won't take it out of 9.8, but unfortunately won't put it in the 9.9 or 10.0 category.
Okay, wait a minute. That corner right there is showing a lot of white. And so is the one above it. I mean, less white, but it's showing a decent amount of white. And it's interesting to me, because this is what I said, when we started the video, where the quick sort of like, does this make the potential 9.9, 10.0 cut? I'm going to just look at all the corners, and then I'm just going to eliminate right there. But this one made it past into the, I'm going to give this the 9.9 look over, even though that corner is not really as sharp as it should have been. And I think this is where people get, suspect of the 9.9, 10.0, like, what's the difference, like that sort of thing. Like if you had to take all these books and mix them up again, and you gave them the same pile and said, okay, now you have to do this again, do you guys think that he would have pulled the same exact stack of 9.9s and 10.0s? I feel like that's the part right there, when you see a white corner like that got through his initial screening process to get into the 9.9 pile. I feel like that's an indication that, like, there's some human error element into this, where maybe there's some of the books that were in that 9.8 pile that he quickly dismissed that actually should have been in the 9.9 pile because he thought he saw more white than he actually really did on it. I'll tell you this, and I can't say that, I'm a CGC grader, but when I looked at thousands of the same issue of the book that I had for myself, like, after a while, your eyes start to just play tricks on you. You can't even tell after a while. And I'm sure that CGC graders go through this a lot.
Put it in the 9.9 or 10.0 category. And then this book on top here has a slight impact crunch on the top edge of the book itself. You can see in the light, it casts a slight shadow on the gloss of the book.
This is kind of what I was getting at with the priority of corners, putting you into the world in which you can maybe get the 9.9. Because, clearly, you see an impact crunch like that, and it's like, well, clearly this isn't even a 9.9 book. But the corner is not showing any white. So in his initial stack, the way in which he did this process, this book got sent over to the 9.9 consideration pile. Even though with that corner crunch, it should never even really be, in there.
Now that I have all of the 9.9 and higher contenders pulled out, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back again to this pile and scrutinize this and look for the sharpest corners and the parts of the spine, the top and bottom spine, where there's no color breakage, no color loss anywhere, no bends, no spine stress, if there's one that does exist. If there is one, then we possibly could have a 10.0. Well, I think we got one. I have them separated into 3 stacks. It's easier for me to show you the transition of the defects on the spine. We'll start with the 9.8's in particular. And if you look, what we have here are not only white showing where there's wear on the spine corners, but there's also bindery tears, which is a very common production flaw with books. And it's still acceptable in the 9.8 grade. And as we go to the 9.9 pile, you will notice fewer bindery tears and less white showing and more color on these spine corners.
That's the 9.9 pile? That second one? Look at that second one right there. Like right up there. Like, that's a lot of white, isn't it? Like, I'm surprised that made the cut. And then here too, look at the staples, guys. There's some staple tears, which again, I think people can be harsher graders than even CGC, because I've seen books be 9.8s with staple tears, but I think a lot of people might say, oh, staple tears can never be a 9.8, but you see it right here. This is his 9.9 pile. And even in some of the books here, there's some white here, there's some white here, some white here. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like if this second book got put in a 9.9 slab, and then let's say that this was a mega key and went to heritage auctions and was being sold, and it was like, oh, it's the 9.9, whatever. I'm going to meme on this book. I'm 100% going to zoom in during the live stream, and I'm going to look at that corner, and I'm going to put my hand on my face and do the facepalm reaction. Some of these books are going to slip through the cracks, but maybe that's what a 9.9 is. Maybe 9.9s can have that. But again, shout out to Manu. I mean, no one who collects 9.9s, I think, would be happy about a book that has that.
And if we transition once again down to the 10.0, you'll notice that there is none of that.
Okay, how do we feel about that? I mean, there's a little bit of white in that corner. Can that be a 10.0? Granted, we are zoomed in, right? We are very much zoomed in here. So to the naked eye, you really wouldn't see that. But to camera, you're going to catch it. Do we think that that's a 10.0? I mean, what is a 10.0, right? Should a 10.0 have a perfect blue corner there? I don't know. I just think, again, I think we just live in this age where, CGC probably just wants to give some 10.0s. They just want to start giving 10.0s. So as far as this entire pile, he went through it. It was probably 200 books. This is the best one. That's as best as the corner can possibly look from coming off the printer. So that one gets a 10. So it's relative. This is the 10.0 relative to this run of books.
And they're back. And as you can see, I'm holding a 9.9 and a 10.0 in our crystal clear case with our beautiful blue universal label. Now, I know I originally said I went over 160 copies total, and actually I went through 400 total from the printer. And out of those 400, I pulled over 300 9.8's, 79 9s, and only 7 10.0s.
400 copies, 300 9.8. So 75% 9.8. Does that sound right? Yeah, that sounds right. Right? 79 9s out of 400? Is that right? So what is that? 20% were 9.9s? And then 7 were 10.0s out of 400 copies? 2%? What is that? What is the math? I can't do math. You guys can figure it out. I kind of feel like, again, we're just in a new age, right? We're just in a new age. Modern comics are going to start to get more 9.9s and 10s, especially if they're getting shipped to CGC this way. Straight from the publisher, 400 copies, 9.9 pre-screen. They're going to have to give some 10.0s. And some books are going to be, look better relative to the rest of the pile. So they're just going to give it to them. And I just think that this is probably just the wave of the future. Are there books that are out there, New Mutants 98s and things like that should be 10.0s, Ultimate Fall Force that should be 10.0s? Yeah, probably. There probably are, and so I think that that's maybe a frustration in the community that this is where things are going, but this is where things are going.
In a 10.0, you'll notice every corner is sharp, the top and bottom spine is perfect, comes to a point with 0 color breakage in any area along the spine. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed taking a trip through manufacturing defects and discovering the differences between a 9.8, a 9.9, and a 10.0. If you liked what you saw, please leave a comment below. If you have ideas what you'd like to see in the future, please follow us at CGC Comics and drop us a line. My name is Sean Caffrey, and thank you again.
Well, there you have it, guys. CGC Insider Publisher Defects, the difference between 9.8s, 9.9s, and 10s. What did you guys think about this? I mean, I thought that this was a good video. I thought it was well made. I think it's cool that CGC is giving us this transparency. Now, do I want to agree with the content of the video in terms of the process? I mean, I'm open to these ideas, but it does feel a little bit arbitrary. And I think that there is a case to be made for 9.9s and 10s being a little bit subjective. If you gave him the same stack of 160 books again, mixed it back up, you gave it to him again, would he pull the same exact books? I'm not convinced that that would happen. But do we think that it would be possible for anyone to come up with a system like that? I'm not so sure, right? Again, it's just, I think if you get a 9.9, you get a 10, you kind of just won the lotto that day. You know what I mean? It was a roll of the dice. That book happened to look amazing, in the eye of the grader. It's not that they're trying to, come up with a false grading system. I think that they have a system. I think it's a lot like balls and strikes in MLB, but every umpire has like their own biases. Like every umpire, has good and bad days. I think that that's the same with, CGC grading. But I'm going to put a link in the description to the video. Definitely go check it out if you guys want. Give CGC Comics a subscribe, give the video a like. Let's go down to Commentville and see what people are talking about down here. Let's see. The 10 had a slight bend. The 10 had a slight bend. You know what? I thought I saw that. Can we go back up here? I thought I did see that. And oh, right there. Right there. Do you guys see that? Sorry, the red line with the pause is kind of hiding it. But right there, you see this kind of bend. I don't know if that's like a shadow or if that's like the case is kind of showing that. I kind of feel like maybe that's probably just a shadow or something, or I don't know. You would hope, right? You would hope. But yeah, I thought I kind of saw that, but it's hard to say. Once it's in the case, this is the problem, guys. Once it's in the case, you can't really tell. Wait a sec. You didn't flip the pages. How do you know they're all there and printed correctly? I thought the same thing. Let's assume he counted the pages. Let's assume they did. Amazing video. You gotta be kidding me. All those 9.9's look worse than all my 9.8's. You cannot have any paper wear white on corners and still get a 9.9. I could resubmit 1,000 books tomorrow that look better than those 9.9's, and half would come back lower than the 9.8 grades they have because it's all random based on who grades the book. I truly hope all who grade books at CGC has to watch this video before they ever grade a single book again. Wow. That was a spicy comment that was in all bold. But I understand what he's getting at. I understand what he's saying, because this is kind of what I was saying throughout the video, where I don't think there's a single 9.9 collector that would be happy with a corner that showed that much white, at least in some of the examples of the piles that he was pulling. But I think that we live in a new world where, yeah, it's there's some hypocrisy here. I think new comic books are going to get more treatment towards 9.9's and 10's. And I think that those ones that got 9.8's from a previous generation and a previous era are just that. They're just ones that got 9.8's from a previous generation. So I think that there will be like kind of a system that will just say like, books that are 2020 to today, 9.9's are basically the equivalent of 9.8's pre-2020, Need to see the math behind the ratio of what can make it a 10-0. Obviously, it depends a lot on variables, but a handy back of the napkin calculation, 400 submissions and 7 of them were 10s. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that math. I think that I would assume that math's probably going to hold up, again, for new comic books coming straight from the press. Not impressed with how rough the books are being manually handled. I can only imagine how individual submissions are handled by several CGC employees before a comic is even graded. Well, yeah, I mean, again, this is the perception that we have that, every CGC grader is he has like white gloves, like they're handling the Stanley Cup, but it just, I don't think it works that way. And just on the amount of volume that they have to do and how fast that they have to do their turnarounds, like what would make them a productive business. I mean, you saw what he did. He's got to fire through that, so. And at the end of the day, too, we're talking about 9.9's and 10's. Like, if they damage the book, they're going to give you a 9.8. And that kind of sucks, because now if you get a book back and it's a 9.8 and you're like, oh, I don't want to like sell this, in good faith, in good conscience, that kind of sucks. But what are you going to do? They're humans. They want to go to lunch. You know what I mean? They want to go to lunch. They want to get through their pile. All right, let's read a couple more comments here. What bothers me about you checking the books is every human has a slight oil residue that comes from our fingers. Why don't you have gloves on? Exactly, this is talking about with the white gloves. I don't know if you guys have ever held or handled a lot of comic books with white gloves. I actually just find it really difficult to handle them. So maybe just wash your hands and get the oils off. I kind of understand that, I'm just waiting for the grade snobs to cry about why there aren't graders notes to explain why they didn't get 10s. Well, this is, this is a thing. I mean, you do need to get graders notes. Like if you're going to go in and have, this type of transparency video, and you're going to have, books come back and here's the 9.8 and here's 9.9 and here's a 10. I mean, you do kind of need to put graders notes. I do think that there is a good argument to be made, or a good complaint to be had in the community, that a book that gets a 9.6, or even in this case, like a book that gets a 9.8, should probably have graders notes. Because it's like, why isn't it a 9.9? Even if it is as simple as like, oh, tiny bit of corner crunch, tiny bit of, white in the upper right corner. I know that's probably tedious. And as we saw with the graders, like, you see how fast they have to go through that stack of pile, he had 160 books. Like, is he going to make individual grader notes for 160 separate books to explain, well, this one had an upper left white corner, and this one had a lower right white corner, and this one had a little bit of white on the binder, and then this one had a little bit of white in the staple tear. And I just think that they probably just don't think it's feasible, and they're just not going to do it, which is frustrating, but what are you going to do? They just do so much volume. I mean, I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. It just is what it is. They just don't have the means to give graders notes at that level, especially for new comic books that are being submitted to them in that high of bulk. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. That was me doing a reaction to CGC's 9.9, 10, 9.8 video difference. What do you guys think about this? I thought that this was a really interesting video. It's cool to see CGC putting out this type of content. Let me know what you guys thought about, how he decided what was a 10.0. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. See you all in the next video.